garden. So, just a quick health and safety. If you can remain seated at all times and keep your arms and legs inside the carriages, that would be fab. We will be having a couple of stops on our way, but just be warned if you do decide to hop off. We do get very busy, so you probably won't be able to get on the next train. So, as we make our way around the gardens, I'll be pointing out some pretty fascinating things, some completely unique to Australia, so sit back, relax and enjoy the ride. First up on the right, you will see this classic piece of Gothic architecture. This is the State Government House. So the State Government House has more than 120 rooms and was constructed in 1845, making it the home to the governor at the time and also the home to a governor ever since. Imagine having 120 rooms in your house, you'd probably get lost. Now if you look out across the harbour, you'll see the closest point of land to us, little bit close to that boat now. And this is one of the most photographed koalas in Australia. Now the part of the garden that we are passing through is called Palm Grove, and this is the oldest part of our Botanic Gardens as they were planted here in 1816. If you do get the chance to explore here, have a look at some of the names of the palm trees as they can be quite amusing, such as flamethrower palm, walking stick palm or even teddy bear palm. These information boards to our right are all about when the British first arrived here and the impact that this had on the Aboriginal people living here at the time. There's lots of important information about the history of Australia, so they are definitely worth a read. And just to our right here, this green bushy area is the first European farm in Australia. So when the British arrived here to establish the first European colony, this was the first thing to be constructed. It was built by convicts and fed over 1,000 people at the time. But they soon realised that the soil was not nutritious enough to sustain the farm, so they moved it to Parramatta, and that is the only part that still remains here in our garden. And just to our right here, this walled-off area is our succulent garden, home to all of our succulents and cacti. But long before Toronto Zoo was established, this was actually Australia's first attempt at a zoo, and its first animals were a Chinese deer and an anteater. But when the zoo grew too large, it moved to Moore Park in 1883 and left behind 3 tortoises which used to roam the garden. Now if you have explored our gardens today, you may have noticed that quite a few of our trees have plastic wrapped around their trunks, like this one on the corner on the left. This is due to a pesky little creature called the possum. So the possum will come out at night and eat all of the fruit and the leaves of the trees, and this is damaging to both our trees and also the possum, because the trees are not always native to Australia, which therefore can make the possums quite poorly. And the part of the garden that we have now just passed through is called Spring Walk, and this is probably the most colourful part of our garden this time of the year. And this tree right in the middle of our roundabout here was once considered to be the rarest tree in the world. This is the Wollemi pine. So the Wollemi pine was thought to be extinct for 65 million years before a park ranger in the Blue Mountains National Park accidentally stumbled across it in 1994. Before this, it was only found in fossil form in museums all around the world. So finding it alive was like finding a dinosaur walking the earth that very day, as David Attenborough likes to put it. Although I'm pretty sure it would have been substantially more terrifying to come across a dinosaur than a tree. Now if you look very carefully to our right, unfortunately the possums have been eating them, but there is still a bunch left of our pink bananas. And these are certainly not for snacking on, because if you were to take a bite from them, you would probably break all of your teeth, as they are completely filled with stones. But the next time you take a bite out of your regular banana, just know that you could be eating a relative, because humans actually share 50% of their DNA with bananas. Now on the corner on the very left here, this is our blessed palm. This is one of the rarest palm trees in the world. This is because they will grow up to about 40 metres tall, and once they've reached this height, they will blossom and then they will die. This is why they are so rare, and there are only 30 of them in the wild in Madagascar, which is where they are originally from. Now as we make our way around the corner here, this is our first stop for today. From here you can access the restaurant and cafe down to the left, but I'm not 100% sure if it's still open at this point. And we have the garden shop to the right. Like I said before, if you do decide to hop off, just know that we do get very busy, so you probably won't be able to get on the next train. Does anybody want to hop off here at all? If you give me a big wave out the left window. No? Cool. Perfect. We'll continue on round. So, as we make our way over the bridge here, if you look very carefully towards the edges of it, sometimes you can spot water dragons. But I think they might be hiding at the moment. If you do get the chance to come back at a later date, this is the perfect place to spot them. And the bridge that we have just passed over there is the oldest bridge in Australia, as it was constructed by convicts in 1816. Elizabeth Macquarie was so impressed with the craftsmanship that she gifted them 5 gallons of spirits. Thankfully, she gave this to them after they had completed the work rather than before. We sometimes wonder whether we could be paid in spirits, but it probably wouldn't be a very good idea driving the train. And this tree to our left just here is our wishing tree, otherwise known as the Norfolk Island pine. Legend has it that if you close your eyes and make a wish, and then open your eyes and walk around the tree 3 times forwards and 3 times backwards, your wish will come true. And this is where the saying touch wood originates from. So if anybody wants to give that a go so we can last on the next tour, that would be fab. And just coming up to our left here, you'll see this really unusual looking tree with an enormous trunk and enormous branches. This is called a Queensland bottle tree, and this has such a high water content that when Aboriginal people found themselves in times of drought, they would simply just tap directly into the side of it to drink from it. And back to our right here, you'll see this bronze statue of a mare and foal, and this is of a famous racehorse from the late 1800s called Mare the Rainer. This was originally cast in Paris and then bought by the New South Wales Art Gallery, who then gifted it to the Botanic Gardens, where you can see it today. You'll see this really enormous tree, and this is called a jacaranda tree. Back in the 1950s, midwives used to give their seeds to new mothers so they could plant them and watch the tree grow as their child did, giving them good fortune and health. This is why you may see an abundance of jacaranda trees all around Sydney, despite them originally being from Brazil. So as we make our way up here, this is our second stop for today. From here you can access Mrs Macquarie's Point directly through the gates in front of us. It is just a 5-minute flat walk from here. Or we have Busby's Bar to our right, which is the perfect place to grab a drink with a view. Did anybody want to hop off here at all? If you give me a big wave out the left window. Okay, cool. Perfect, we will continue on round. So as we make our way around the corner here, I will go nice and slowly so you can all get your postcard photos in of the view on the right, because this is the most photographed image in Australia. Sydney Opera House directly in front of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And once you've taken a look at that, you should definitely have a look at the contrast between the gardens and the city in front of us. So that's pretty impressive as well. So if I tell you a little bit about the Opera House, the point in which it sits on is called Bennelong Point, which was named after the first English-speaking Aboriginal man. Back in the 1950s, the government at the time decided that Bennelong Point would be the perfect place for the nation's first opera house. So they held a competition for the design of it, with the grand prize fund of $10,000. Altogether, they had 222 entrants across 28 different countries, and the winning entrant was a Danish man by the name of Bjorn Utzum. His winning design was said to be inspired by the wings of a swan, the sails of a ship, and seashells. And if you look at the Opera House, I think he's got it pretty spot on. And I'm sure we can all see the Sydney Harbour Bridge sitting directly behind the garden, or as the locals refer to it as the coat hanger. And despite appearing curved, this is all an illusion. The Harbour Bridge is in fact only made from a straight piece of steel. The bridge opened in March of 1932, costing a whopping £10 million, using 6 million rivets and weighing 52,000